Hey guys, welcome back. So we have already created the successfully run our first React Native app on the emulator. So first of all, before getting started, so we are going to delete everything that you see in this file and obviously start from scratch so that you understand everything step by step, so that when you start your own projects, you have a structure to think about. You have a way to approach a project. So first of all, I wanted to show you that I have a few extensions installed here, as you can see, and one of them is this ES7 React Redux React Native snippets. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to create simple functional or class components. So I'll just delete everything and we can just type RNF. So as you can see, it is a shortcut that lets us create a blank app component, and as you can see, everything that we had on the screen is now gone. So just to make sure that everything works, so let's just pass in a value here to see if it is rendered on the screen, and there you go. We have misspelled hello on the first time, but it works. And as you can see that, like everything else, we have live reloading enabled, so we can just press R on our Metro bundle here and it'll reload the app for us. Now we see, first of all, we import view and text from React Native. So these are elements that we talked about in the introduction video that React Native provides us. It comes out of the box with React Native. And the library React Native knows how to compile these elements into native UI elements for the platform that it is being currently run on. So it knows how to convert or how to translate a view into a native view for Android. So that would be, let's say, Android.view, or a view class that is represented natively in Android. You can think of this as a wrapper. The view essentially here is a wrapper for elements within that comes inside. So it's the same like a div or a span tag that we use in HTML, where we can have other elements inside. It's a way of organizing related UI components together. So that's what a view does, and a text also pretty much self-explanatory. But here also, this is a component that is provided to us by React Native. So React knows how to translate this to the native UI elements for the current platform. So in this video, we are going to talk about components and props. What are components and what are props? You can think of components as reusable functions, reusable chunks of code that you can use in different places in your app to create UI. So essentially, first let's define what a component is. A component is like a JavaScript function. It accepts parameters, like arguments that we pass to a function. So it accepts parameters, and those arguments or parameters are called props when it comes to components. So component is simply a function that accepts props and returns. Now this is very important. A component will always return a JSX element. A JSX element is a UI element in React. So, and the main purpose of a component is to return a JSX element. Now if you do pass some props, it can use the values of the props. You can think of the props as variables now. So you can use the values in the props and return the JSX element dynamically. So you can have a component. Now this is the power of reusable components. So you can have a simple component that just returns a text JSX element. So these are all JSX elements, right? And you can have a component that just returns a text element, but the text inside it is determined by the value of the prop. So you can use that component anywhere you want in your code and just pass the value for the text, and we can just have dynamic UI elements which we can use anywhere on the screen. So let's first look at how we can use the idea of components and props here in React Native. So first of all, to keep everything organized, let me create a new folder and let's just call it SRC. For all the code that we are going to write will be living inside this folder. Let's create another folder here and let's call it components. And all the components that we are that we will be creating, will stay here. Now here, let's create a demo file and let's call it demo component.js. Again, I'm going to just use React Native snippets to create the structure of the file. And as you can see, it is just a simple JavaScript function and it returns a JSX element. That's all it does. Now let's say we want this component to, it's the same as here as we can see, but instead of directly creating the view here, we can create it here. Now we can say, we can say hello world here. And okay, so we have a text passed here. Now in the app component, instead of passing the text directly, what we can do is we can import our newly created component. So it's demo component. We can import it because it's been exported here. So we can import it here. And now instead of passing this, we can just pass our demo content. And as you can see, we already have an error because even this app, which even though it is the root, you could say, file, but it is still a component, right? It's a functional component and you cannot return no values. You cannot return an empty statement in a component. You must return, at least you must return a view, even if that's an empty view. But in our case, we are going to return the demo component that we created. And let's just call that. And as you can see, now we can use this demo component. From here, we are passing the value, and here we just render the element onto the screen. So now let's talk about props, how we can use the idea of props to even extend the functionality of this and make this more reusable and more modular. So now we can see that we can just use demo component here to render this component dynamically. But what if we could pass the value of the text from here, right? So that when we use this component in a different screen or in a different part of the app, we can pass a different text and that can be rendered on the screen. So that's the idea of behind props. So to start off, we can just say text value. We can call any name we want. And this is the prop that we are going to pass here in the place of our text that we entered. We are going to pass, we are going to pass the text value prop that we have defined. All right. And now we can see that the text is gone. That's probably because we have not passed, or the value of text value, there is no value here. So now we can use this prop that we created in the app component where we call the demo component and we can pass whatever value we want. And boom, we have the text rendered on the screen, passed dynamically from a different file, a different screen that uses this component. So this is the idea behind components and reusable components and props. This is essentially what props are. So if we go and look at the official definition of what are props and what are components, I have them opened up here. So as you can see in the React Native official docs, it says that most components can be customized when they are created with different parameters. These created parameters are called props, short for properties. For example, one basic React Native component is the image, right? So instead of a text, we can take the example of image that we have here. When we create an image, you can use a prop named source to control what the image shows. So instead of a text here, if we rendered an image, which is a React Native element that we can call from the React Native library, which we can import from the React Native library. And instead of passing a text, what we could do is we could pass an image here, right? And an image is a self-closing tag here. And for the source, we could pass a value that we have. So let's first get an image in our assets folder. So let me go ahead and create another folder here, and let's call it assets. And inside the assets folder, so as you can see, guys, I have 3 images in my assets folder, and now we can just use these images. So the syntax for that is we use require, and then we can pass the path to the image. So we have, it's in the asset folder and it's called I think a.jpg, right? So we can just pass that a.jpg. And yeah, but as you can see, we do not see the I'm sorry, here it's not source, it's source. So as you can see, this gives us the, so now we see the image in our screen. It looks huge. So this is another built-in property, a prop that every component accepts is a style prop. So you can use this name style, which is actually a prop, and you can use it to customize any component you want. So for this, we are going to create a width of, let's say, 200 and a height of, let's say, I don't know, 100, and a resize mode of, let's say, contain, so that we can see what's on the screen. And yeah, let's reload the page. Yeah, so as you can see, for sometimes it might not always be able to update the view in real time, especially when it comes to adding new resources, new fonts, new icons, new images. You are often going to see that even after making the change in the code, it's not reflected in the app immediately. So in those cases, what you can do is you can reload the app by pressing R in the Metro bundler, and it will reload the app for you. And you can see we have an image here. So we can use the same idea of that we have done so far and pass the value for the source here as a prop instead of hard coding it here. We can even pass dynamic styles as prop from this component. So essentially that is the idea of prop. I'll leave it to you to try on your own time. So that is the idea of component and props in React Native. So yeah, guys, hope you guys learned something new. In the next video, we are going to dig deeper and start understanding about what the other things, what are hooks, what are React hooks. So yeah, hope to see you in the next video. See ya.